good, YouTube? It's a warm, wet Christmas Eve here in the South. You can hear the air conditioners running in the background, and I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt. Today I'll be making gumbo. But today's gumbo will be different from the last gumbo I made. The last pot of gumbo I made, which is on a previous video, is gumbo that's made with chicken, duck, and sausage. And I made everything from scratch. It was a long, drawn-out process. And some of my viewers said, well, hey, this gumbo looks really good, but I can't make it myself. It takes too long. So today I'm going to make gumbo using a shortcut recipe. Today's gumbo will be seafood gumbo using shrimp and crab meat. And it's not going to all be from scratch. It's going to be made quickly, probably in less than an hour. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing is to get our broth going. Now last time I made gumbo, I actually boiled a duck and made a nice rich duck broth. But since we're making shortcut gumbo this time, I'm going to use chicken bouillon cubes. So we'll just unwrap several of these cubes and throw them in the water and let them begin dissolving. These bouillon cubes will dissolve as the water heats up, giving us our chicken broth. Just as we would with any gumbo, we'll cut up some onions and celery and saute it. You can use cooking oil to saute your onions and celery, but tonight I'm using shortening. Now that the shortening is heated up, we'll go ahead and saute our onions and celery. Once the onions and celery begin to look somewhat translucent, they'll be ready to put in our gumbo. These are looking good now, so we'll go ahead and transfer it to our broth. We have a couple of cooking show critics up there watching our every move. Next, we'll chop up our bell pepper and throw it in the pot. While you weren't looking, I made some rice and went ahead and put it in the gumbo. Now most people serve their gumbo over rice, but I like to just make my rice and throw it in the gumbo when I'm cooking it. That way it's more convenient and the rice has an opportunity to absorb the gumbo flavor. This is the biggest shortcut of all in this evening's gumbo. This is store-bought roux, spelled R-O-U-X. It's a French word. Roux is the base of any gumbo. To make roux from scratch, you take equal amounts of flour and oil and put them in a skillet over medium heat and stir and stir and stir and stir and stir until it becomes dark brown. But this time I'm using roux that's made in the store. I've never tried these before, but I'm told they actually are quite good. Now normally you wouldn't use the whole jar for a pot of gumbo like this, but I like my gumbo thick and I don't plan to make any more gumbo for a while, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw the whole jar in. Moving right along, we'll add some tomato paste. and some tomato sauce. Next we'll add our crab meat. It's still frozen, but it'll melt in this hot gumbo pretty quickly. And our frozen peeled shrimp. What could be simpler? Give it a good stir. That looks really good, doesn't it? I wish you could smell it. Now that that's in, we'll season it. First up, since this is seafood gumbo, we'll use some Old Bay seasoning. That's a popular seasoning with seafood. Next, we'll add some garlic powder. And some pink salt, has minerals in it. And some sea salt. Seafood takes up a lot of salt. Now the broth already has some salt in it. We'll add some of the sea salt here. Give it a good stir. Okay, and since we didn't saute any green onions, and we'll just use some dry chopped green onions. It's better to use fresh, but once again this is shortcut gumbo. So we're going to put some dry chopped green onions in. And of course our cayenne pepper to give it a little heat. A couple of bay leaves. Now we'll take these out after it's finished cooking. And some turmeric. We'll throw some Creole seasoning in, just for good measure. A little bit of Italian seasoning. And some soy sauce out of the refrigerator. And some thyme. You'll notice I don't really measure anything, I just throw it in. Okay. And we'll stir that in. We'll let this simmer for a couple of hours and we'll come back and try it and see if it's any good. And as always, I like to clean as I cook so I won't have a mess to clean up later. Isn't this a cool old kitchen? The gumbo's been cooking a couple of hours now. Doesn't that look amazing? I'm going to add one more ingredient. It's called gumbo fillet, spelled F-I-L-E. It's made of ground sassafras leaves. Now what they say you're supposed to do is add the fillet to your gumbo once you already have it in your bowl right before you eat it. They say you're not supposed to add it to the pot, but I always do anyway, and the gumbo turns out just fine. So once we get the fillet in here, get it stirred up, it'll be ready to eat. Thanks for watching.